Today I'm very honoured to introduce our guest speaker, Paul Paulson. Paul is a proud Mununjali man from Beaudesert with over 30 years of experience in education, government and corporate roles. He has worked as a teacher, a manager, a consultant, including serving as the National Manager of the National Innovation Education Portal as a cultural consultant for the Queensland Law Society. Paul authored Binama, and you have to correct me, Paul, I'm sorry if I get this wrong, Binama, The Stolen Generations, a resource designed to educate Australian students about the history and impacts of the stolen generations. He is currently the Director of Indigenous Education for the Queensland Anglican Schools Commission and founder of the Nari Institute, Australia's first international Indigenous institute. And in his spare time, I can't believe you've even found time for this, Paul is completing his PhD, focusing on cultural identity and safety for First Nations students in independent schools. So welcome, Paul Paulson. Welcome to our Aspire2 Leadership Interview Series, Voices of Change, Leading Education Forward.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, Paul. And you've certainly got an impressive career in education, which is a testament to your dedication to empowering communities and fostering cultural understanding. Could you share for us today a little bit about your education leadership journey?
Leadership isn't something, for me, you aspire to do. Sometimes it's befallen on you. So for me, growing up in my hometown, which is Beaudesert, small country town, sometimes leadership is thrust upon you. I come from a large family. My mum comes from a large family, so I had a lot of inspiring uncles and aunties that helped me. And growing up in a country town in a single family, welfare dependent household, again, leadership is thrust upon you to lead, to help your family, and seeing the dysfunction and the racism that was in our town, and certainly when I first went to university, you get inspired to change things. So you want to make positive change, sustainable change. So I said we can do better than this. So I said I'm going to do something about it. And you do it through teaching. You try to, when you become a teacher, you want to be the best you can be, and you want to inspire your students, which I've always strived to do and hope that I've done, particularly when I was lecturing at university, that were producing young teachers that I gave them a mandate to, be an agent for social change for the better. So you take what your own learnings and you try and impart them on others that that can make a difference. So that's what I'm saying. It's not something I aspired to. It's something that it was thrust upon me. Growing up, when more and more elders were passing away, elders would come to me and go, "We need you to lead now. You're stepping up." So you didn't really get a say in that. So
Yeah.
You go, "Yeah, okay, that's the cultural role," and you do it.
I suppose for anyone that sort of listens to this story, I think that one of the things that stands out for me is almost feeling like you have that sort of obligation, which you want to do. But I think stepping away from being a leader as such in the role of a principal or a teacher, stepping into that system level space is an entirely different thing. So is there anything that sort of had motivated you to move from stepping into the level of that sort of principal sort of role into the system role?
Well, believe it or not, the seismic change for me happened. I was lecturing at Griffith Uni on the Gold Coast, and I got a phone call from Reconciliation Australia. I actually thought it was a prank call by one of my mates. They said, "We'd like you to come down and be the National Corporate Manager for the Reconciliation Action Plan program in 2009. And I said, "Okay, what's a RAP?" I didn't even know what one was. And here I am supposed to be at the cutting edge of teaching undergraduate and postgraduates in Indigenous education. I didn't even know what a rap was, but mind you, the program was only in its third year. So I said, okay, so I go to Canberra, leaving the Gold Coast for Canberra certainly changes you with the different landscape and the climates and whatnot. But I took the job and I was there for 3 years, and that job entitled me and granted me the best journey in terms of I got to travel this country, how big this country really is. So I got to travel all around Australia, got to meet mobs from all different parts of Australia, remote, rural, you name it. I was everywhere every week. And that's when it dawned on me how big, when people say we're closing the gap, you really see the gap in the life expectancy. Now there's different metrics that they use saying, we're 10 years difference. What I saw, it was more like 20. It was like 20 and even more so in the more rural and remote parts of Australia. So travelling this country, learning from mob, understanding, hearing their voices, their stories, their journeys, and the impacts that reconciliation action plans had, because it's about social connectedness, and that was so important and it's so impactful when you're getting, different tiers and strands of community, corporate, education, all them coming together to provide really impactful social capital to change, schooling, juvenile crime, health, all the, because the RAPs, I don't know if people know this, that the RAPs are built on the 6 social determinants of health, and it was actually something that the Canadians started. So we're doing, I like to think Australia and the Reconciliation is still doing a wonderful job in that space. So going around travelling and seeing that really opened my eyes and really inspired me to go, wow, well, my first calling, my true love is education and teaching. So I did my 3 years and went back into education. So and this is where I am.
And I think, Paul, when I hear you talk, it feels like it probably was almost an overwhelming responsibility. And I just think, and you use the word inspire, how did you foster change at that level across multiple schools, multiple educational organisations, because it's such a difficult task.
Working with the corporates, because that was certainly a game changer. Working with Rio, I had to deal with all the mining, all the banks, and I mean at executive level, trying to change their lens, because if they're going to be in this space, they had to understand their impact, their role and their responsibility in this space. That if they're going to invest in, a social compact, so to speak, to engage with Aboriginal people, not for Aboriginal people. That was the key thing that I had to change for them. Like dealing with West farmers, they were really good in this space. All the banks, what they're doing, just the little changes that they do, they don't realise, or they do now, but back then they didn't realise the huge impact a small policy change or a detail change would have on the Indigenous community where they were operating.
That
was probably the key thing, is getting them to understand this isn't sponsorship, this isn't I'm sorry, or we're going to throw a couple of dollars at this. This RAPS as a relationship building compact, so to speak, to really co-invest with the Indigenous community to make change. So
and sustainable change on.
That's right. So we weren't asking, we had architects, doctors, engineers all over. So we weren't asking engineers to write a screenplay to do a play in the desert. We wanted them within their sphere of influence, what they can do. Now, we didn't want them to do everything. It's what they could do, what they're able to do, and what they're willing to do. So that was the key focus points for when these guys were signing up to do RAPs. that it meant something to them too. And
Yeah.
excuse me, after their first 12 months of doing a RAP, it took them 12 months to really get a handle on what a RAP meant for them and the impact it had on the communities where they were operating. So after that, you saw the slow wheels of change in attitude and direction, which was for the better. So, and that was 10, 15 years ago. So I dare say now that the RAP process is much more tighter and it's very well governed and I'm sure now that the people who engage in reconciliation action plans really do focus on the impacts, and that's what it's about.